Hello and welcome to a brand new City Skylines 2 city build series, and we are here on the Owens Bay map by GIFs. There is a link in the description to this if you want to play along. Make sure you come and join our Discord so you can share your wonderful screenies of your builds on this map. I would love to see them. We are playing with mods because the focus of this series is definitely going to be realistic, detailed. We're going to be using a few select mods and some assets to incorporate exactly our style into this city. It is a North American inspired map from the Pacific Northwest. I can't say our city is definitely going to be that style, but we are building in the North American theme. And the reason really why I've chosen this map is because there's lots of interesting things to it. We've first up got this huge bay area in here, which I think is absolutely fantastic. We've got some islands we can play with. We've got this peninsula out here as well. We also have this nice big flat area right about here, which I think would be perfect for our downtown, maybe some industrial waterfront up the back, lovely windy road. And we've also then got this river to play with up the back as well. So I think we can do some pretty nice stuff with this variety of landscape. And the other reason as well is I tend to choose maps which don't have loads of infrastructure already on it, and this is perfect for that as well. We've just kind of got local national highways running in and out of the map over here and in and out of the map over this side. And then just a little local road up here and one rail connection. So nice and simple, we can easily change things up, develop, increase the high bay capacities as we go along without kind of feeling like we're ruining the map. So yeah, I'm really excited for this one. We're going to be starting over here, which is the start tile. I have, however, unlocked all map tiles. I'm sure if you've seen any other videos about the Economy 2.0 release, you will know why. And even though we're doing a detail focused series, we are still going to be playing the game because the majority of you on my poll did want me to play with money on. It's tougher in the Economy 2.0 update, so we'll see how we go, but this is what we're doing. We start with 1 million in the bank now. It's a nice chunk of money, but it doesn't go that far. But we are going to balance the books as well as run through the milestones and detail as much as we want. Now the milestones are kind of loose because we do have find it, so we can plot whatever we want, and I will be stretching those milestones a little bit using that as we go along. We also need a name for our city, so please drop your suggestions in the comments below and we'll choose one of those on a subsequent episode. New Orleans was the last one. What a fantastic name that was, so let me know what you think for our new city over here. And we're going to start with an industrial area actually on this side of the waterfront. We're going to have the main town centre up here. Probably going to add in ferry at a later date because I feel like that would be great connection over to the downtown. I'm not planning on spanning this with a road bridge. We will have a road bridge over here, but they're going to have to drive round this peninsula to really get into the main central business district, which will be round about here. So I think ferry option would be a nice option because of course rail is not going to bridge over this either. And I would also like to bring rail into this starter town, so we'll be having a look at ways we can kind of make sure we've left enough room for that as well when it comes down to it. But for now, yeah, let's get this industry in. And I quite like to have a few different sort of prongs of industry sticking out into the water like this. Now I do have the network upgrades mod, but we don't unlock that ability for just a little bit. So for now, we're going to have to make do with some pretty dodgy looking terrain, but we will of course change that up as soon as we have the ability to. So I want to make these reasonably even. We haven't really left enough room here, so let's just continue the terraforming out here and get some really nice industry into these little prongs. And I think what I'm really imagining for this area is that this was an old industrial harbour and it's kind of since been converted. It's still functional industry, but not what it once was, let's say. And there's some really nice assets that can go in here, in particular a little warehouse asset. Yeah, this one. I love this. So I'd definitely like to incorporate these in here, and I really want them all the same colour. I haven't got that mod on at the moment, so we're just going to place a few until we get 3 of the same colour in here, like that. And then what we can do is actually use move it just to move these up a little bit closer so they feel a little bit more like one kind of consistent warehouse building as opposed to 3 separate units. I'm just going to trim this back so it sits in nice and snugly next to these 3 warehouses. And then for the moment we can just trim this back just a little bit like that. And we'll tidy that all up once we get our network upgrades, which we will be using our first development point on for sure. And we do also have some extra surfaces in here, so we're going to be adding a few little surfaces via our mod to cover up awkward places like that. And we'll come in and do some maybe prop detailing potentially around this a little bit later. So we've got one of our peninsulas done. And then we're just going to go back and find some nice big industrial assets that we're going to be happy with. I'm thinking possibly in here we want something that's quite narrow. So maybe something like this would be perfect, because actually it's already only got the fence on one side. And what we can do here is extend this surface out to fit this space. So we're getting this really nice looking packed out industrial peninsula, not having any awkward green spaces in here. We're going to do the same on this side as well, just to fill in that corner. And there's some great assets actually if you have got the Find It mod, or indeed are playing with dev mode, is actually if you search for decoration, we get these industrial decorative manufacturing things. So they're actually non-functional. Of course our industry building here will be completely functional. These are not. But you can add them in as quite nice assets into awkward little spaces like this, so I'm pretty keen on those. And there are some pretty cool things within this as well. You just have to keep on searching and go for ones that you like, but I'm thinking something along these lines. We'll need Anarchy on to place this in, but we've got a few tanks there. It looks quite nice against the shoreline. I'm hoping this building won't generate a chimney when it finally comes in. We can add in some extra decals and props into here as well. So we do have things like stains, thanks to Extra Assets Importer and Sully for his amazing work on these. So yeah, we can just stain up this yard a little bit like that. We also have cracks, although I'm not sure we're going to see them necessarily over our stains now. But this very much helps with an industrial area just to bring it alive a little bit. And then of course we can use Find It as well to find extra props for this. Maybe a container or two in here would look quite nice. We're just going to vary it up so it's a little bit rougher. That has deleted our back building, really annoyingly. And maybe we put in a couple of trash containers outside here as well, with a little bit of trash outside. We can actually hide that annoying white base now, thanks to extra detailing tools here, where we can adjust the height of props down a little bit and get rid of that weird kind of white base that is on some of these trash props if we just lower it just a tiny bit into the ground. So that'll help to bring that alive. Ooh, I've actually found a better one in here that I actually prefer a little bit, I think, for our waterfront. And it's also green, so it goes to the front building as well. So yeah, I think we'll stick with that. And we just want to kind of continue a similar theme as we start to fill out some of these. I mean, that fits in too perfectly actually to ignore, so I think we'll have those in there. And we'll start to get some smokestacks when we press play, I think, on some of these buildings, but that will be okay. Now, one of the other things about the better bulldozer, which is absolutely fantastic, is we have the ability to remove sub-elements and different elements of buildings like so. So we can remove that fence there. We can also remove this tree because it's in the way. And then we can go ahead with this surface and extend it out exactly how we want to get rid of that green space there, add on our decals like before, and that really sort of opens up these assets. So we've gone from this very kind of bog standard 2x3 asset and making it what we want to make it. So again, we can start to add in some more of this sort of manufacturing processing elements to it, add a little bit of height to it, make it a little bit more interesting, and we can be super selective about what we want to see here, which is just like fantastic, honestly. I think here we might even just add in these little silos. I want to try and make sure that they're roughly the same colour as each other. Yeah, like that. And then now with the help of net lanes, thanks to Extra Assets Importer, we can then go and try Find at least a similar fence to what we have here and fence off this area like that, which is not too bad. Like, it's a little bit different. And we could even just draw this along the back here to kind of signify that's the edge of this particular factory's little space. You also want to come in here and add in some little car parks as well. So let's go ahead and grab our custom car parks. Now I can see it's sort of sloping down a little bit here. So we'll try and avoid that as much as possible. But we want to keep the slope in there for interest's sake, I think, as well. So let's then go and add a little bit of surface to our car park in here. I might tidy that up in a little bit. And then that potentially gives us the opportunity to have a small amount of green space in here anyway. Probably don't want any particularly large trees, just a select few smaller ones just to fill in that bank there. We can go around and do a bit of tidying up on this whole complex just by removing a few fences, adjusting some surfaces, pulling this in as well so we get rid of that little bit of weird green space there. And this can really help to make like two factories here feel actually like one space. We could even delete off this bit of surface. I'm not sure I like the change in colour here, and then we can just go back and extend this one out like that. We'll come back and add a bit of extra detailing in there, but that's a decent amount of industry to get us started at least. So let's move on and talk about our first residence. Now this highway is going to change, but of course at the moment we haven't unlocked highways, so we're going to come back to that. And for the moment I'm going to use it as a little bit of a marker for our residential area. Now I do also want to connect this in, so we're just going to bring that straight up into that junction for the moment. And for the residences, I'm going to come straight out of this highway just a little bit. Then we're going to start building just some pretty basic grids for our houses. Now, because this is kind of the first housing that we're putting in here, I do want it to be a low density in nature. And we're going to break them pretty small blocks. So we're actually going to go for 7 blocks by about 11, I think. So actually we'll adjust that road to remove that, bring that in nice and straight from here for now. And we're just going to continue this block size, so it has got that sort of American vibe about it. And I've just made this block at the top slightly smaller, so that one is 6 wide. And I'm really not worried about broken zoning, because you'll see why in just a second. We are going to be using Find It for this, and I know plopping isn't everyone's thing, but particularly for residential, you will see this makes such a massive difference. So we're going to go for a lot depth of 3 and a building level 1, and we're going to select a zone type low buildings, and this is all within the filters, so you can select the filters here within Find It. We've of course got residential buildings on low, and this gives us 8 different options. So we're going to be mixing up these 8 different houses to create some nice, much more varied residential plots than you would get if you didn't do this. Now we're just on level 1 at the moment. I will introduce some level 2 houses as well, because I kind of feel like the rent probably isn't too bad right off the bat for that. We just popped one out of the zones. We'll get rid of that. But we're going to continue this on until we've fleshed out this whole neighbourhood, and we may even introduce a couple of 4 deep blocks as well, just on certain corners, because that will help kind of make it all consistent. We'll have a little green space in the middle of most of these blocks. And then once we've got all of that in, we can come in and just add in a few little slightly bigger trees, I think, into this. So some alders I definitely want to be using. I want to be using some oak in here, and I've got it mixed between teen and adult trees just so we get a little bit more variation in that way as well. And then it just gives us just that little bit more depth, because at the moment there's only kind of bushes really on these assets. So it makes it a little bit more interesting, I find, and we don't want to overdo it, so we'll mix in a few different tree types, but nothing too heavy, nothing too dense, so we definitely don't want to overdo it. I like the hickories too, so we'll mix in some hickories. Also a couple of smaller little apple trees and some of the lindens as well. London planes are quite nice. So we want a nice variety of trees in here, but I think definitely alders and oaks are probably going to be, and the hickory is probably going to be our main kind of tree palette, at least for this city. And where we've got the 6 block where we don't have really any space for trees in between, we're just going to add a few to like the odd backyard here or there, because again I just think that adds a nice little extra touch to it. So here we've got a nice big green space in their backyard. Let's have an oak in their backyard. Got a little bit of space over here, so let's add a smaller alder perhaps, and maybe a larger alder over by these bushes over this side. That's the sort of thing that we want to think about, and I think this just really helps to bring these neighbourhoods alive a little bit, just having this tiny bit of extra greenery slotted in there. So there we have our first little residential neighbourhood, and you can see just by plopping, even though most of these are level 1, there's only a couple of level 2 assets in here full stop. This just looks so much more varied, mixing the beachfront properties or the waterfront properties with European and North American. All just 3 deep actually, with a couple of 4 deeps on the corners. This just gives us a really nice little varied neighbourhood. Very American style obviously with the uniform grids here, but that is what I do want to do quite a bit of in this city. A little bit of a departure from what I normally do. So now let's talk about these collectors and trying to actually make this make a little bit of sense. So we do have a 4-lane road unlocked right from the start. So we're actually just going to upgrade this one right into that. I think for the moment going to just leave this dodgy connection there, but that highway will be, if we turn on contour lines as well, will be diverted through this hillside along round here to connect up with the highway over here. So it will sort of bypass the main town centre at least. So because of that, we are going to just remove this connection out here very briefly, just trim it back to about there, I think, for now. And then what I do want for our town centre is I want this collector to run right through the centre of it. So I quite like this to come out at a nice 90-degree angle to our smaller road running into the industry there. So we'll go something like that. Will do nicely. We do have a little bit of a dip in the terrain here, so let's actually just sort that out first. So we then got the collector, which is going to run right through our town centre. We've also got this collector which will run up and have an interchange with the highway somewhere over here, reasonably close to this one actually. And then in terms of where this is actually going to follow on to, there is going to be a bit of a development over in this flat space around here and also this other side. I'm thinking in terms of longer term plans, this highway will be upgraded. This main highway along here will have a huge interchange around here, which is going to bring out a big highway which is going to flow right through into the downtown over this side. So I'm thinking this collector could be a more local route as an alternative to the highway, which is going to flow as a bridge across here, around this neighbourhood, somehow cut over this hillside and kind of go into the downtown that way, potentially with more branches out into other neighbourhoods around this flat space and things around here. So we definitely want it heading in this direction at least. So for that, I'm going to bring it out straight just a little bit, and we'll come back to what we're doing with that junction in just a second. And then I'm thinking we'll have a slight bend out like this. And then we want to kind of head it on in through here to get through the mountain. This side I think is going to be the easiest place for us to pass. So let's actually bend it back this way, try and get through this little gap there, and then it will head on out over here. So we'll just leave it like that for the moment. Now this junction is awful, like you wouldn't want to turn left on this, so we're going to fix that, and I will use a highway slip ramp for this when we eventually have it. But for the moment, we're just going to use the one-way, one-lane road. And we're going to create a nice kind of, I want to bring it back a little bit further than that. a kind of slip road bend out onto this collector this way. And this is where the traffic mod is going to come in super handy, because you can see at the moment they can still turn back in this way. We don't want that. So we're going to click on each junction and we're going to actually set this up properly. So for this one, I'm going to remove all of the connections, and this lane is going to head on that way, straight on. We're going to have these guys going straight on here, and these ones cannot turn down this road. So we'll bring that through like that. We haven't yet unlocked the ability to remove the traffic lights, but of course we'll be doing that as well. We'll come onto this side, and here we're going to remove all the connections, and this is just going to flow into that lane right there. And these are all going to continue on as normal. And what I love about this as well is it rebuilds the road lines. So you can see those like double yellows in the middle there, rebuilt for us. Absolutely wonderful. I think once we remove the zebra crossings and the traffic lights, that is all going to flow through perfectly as well. And then a similar thing here, we also want to sort this out. Now we are going to have a left turn from this side here, which is going to be a little bit tight, but I can show you in a second how we're going to make that slightly less tight than it actually would be. And I think actually before we do that, we will upgrade this to an asymmetric road, just so we've got a few extra lanes coming in here. And I'm actually going to do this all the way through this industrial district, just so that they've got that extra turn lane into some of these little peninsulas that we've got going on here. So then let's come back to the traffic mod. Now it looks like a horrible jumbled mess, but we can now use Move It as well to sort out this junction, a little bit like Node Controller was in CS1. So we're going to go to the manipulation mode here. I'm going to find these purple lines for this junction. I'm going to click there, and I'm just going to click on this one and drag this back. So this is going to end up like a nice straight junction, if we can get it to go a little bit more straight at least anyway. Then we're going to click on this junction here, and we're going to move that back, just like that. And we're going to do the same thing on each of these, just to widen out this junction and allow a little bit more space for turning. So in particular this one, if we bring this back a little bit, you'll see much more space for turning, makes it much more kind of realistic that they'll be able to make those turns as opposed to it being really tight. And then what we get is this much more uniform looking junction. I'm going to remove these crossings over here, so eventually that won't look like that. But yeah, that's a little demonstration of what traffic and Move It combined can do to really kind of change up and improve your intersections. Okay, so we need to place in some commercials so we can actually get this game started. But we're playing the game and we're detailing at the same time. That's really what I wanted to do here. So what I'd like to do is have this as kind of a main 3 road through the actual suburb here. So we're going to bring this straight out, just a little bit like that, and then we're going to bring it straight down into this road. So I want to make sure we're at a nice 90-degree angle of our main collector there, and that's going to do nicely. And then we're going to bring this down into a waterfront road. Now I want this block to be a little bit bigger than what we had up in our residential area, and we can connect it straight into our industrial road like this as well. And then we're going to bring this all the way along the waterfront up to about there at least. Now with this block, I think I'm actually going to bring this just straight down. So we'll try and come out of this at 180. Let's turn off guidelines, which might be helpful. We'll try and come out of this at 180 like that. And so again, we have a little bit of interest in the grids going on here. And then what we can do if we feel like this sharp turn is too sharp is actually just connect in another road going straight up like that. And we'll have this one as 2-way. And then we can do something nice in the middle of that as well. So it gives us a little bit of opportunity for a bit more detailing there. And then I think what we'll do is carry this road on straight down to meet here. And then we're going to start kind of building out a bit of a nice grid over this side. And I don't want things to be too uniform over here. We can vary it up a little bit, I think. So that's a slightly different size to that, and it's different again over here. And then we're going to continue the grid on up this way, again making these a little bit longer. I think we'll come up to about there, and then we can connect it in both sides over here. Again, really trying to stick to our grid. So yeah, we have got some nice grids in there. Not that we necessarily need it, but it is helpful at least. And then we can start getting in just a little bit of commercial along here. Now, what I would really like on this corner is absolutely going to be a gas station of some description. And this is quite a nice gas station. So I think we're going to have this one on the corner, and it is level 1 as well. So we're kind of playing into that first buildings that you would get if you zoned in as well. Yeah, really liking the fact that that gas stein is going to be right on our main junction there. Then we can find a few more commercial buildings to go in here, and I'm thinking like 5 deep is probably good enough for this. There are some quite nice ones actually. I think they might be 4 deep even, so let's change it up to that. Yes, like this one. So I think we can do a nice little combination here. If we move this up right up to the edge of the gas station, you can kind of see that delivery yard almost meets here, so people could come in and out via the gas station this side. Maybe not wholly realistic, but at least we're trying to like keep with the assets here. And then we'll stick with something else that's 4 deep. Something like this could sit really nicely because it doesn't have a car park alongside this other asset. So it's almost like this is the car park for both of these shops here. I quite enjoy that kind of look. And then perhaps we even, because it's sort of the entrance to the town centre, have a little look at different motels here. We've got a level 1 one there. This one has a car parking lot out the front, which I feel like may be a tad more realistic. So let's go ahead and add this one in. And I think we will just scooch it up a little bit. And we've got a tiny bit of space in here that we could just do a very simple sort of tree line border or something to that effect. Maybe some slightly smaller trees. Can we get a young oak in here? Or a teen oak, should I say? It is overhanging the pavement a bit though. Let's just shift that over a tiny bit. There we go. So yeah, we got a motel, a gas station, a couple of shops in there. I'm feeling pretty good about that. And then we can go across to the other side and find a few more commercial units to add in here. So I think something like that will sit well. We'll definitely get rid of the parking on the street because we've got so many parking lots on all of these different assets. But that'll give us a good kind of foundation at least to start, and we'll come in and do some extra kind of surface work and detailing around these a little bit later on. So of course the other important thing we need is water, sewage and power in here. Now water, we're going to go for the cheapest options. With the economy 2.0 patch, it makes it quite difficult. I won't lie, to actually start with anything other than the cheapest things. So the water pumping station is what we're going to go for our water source. We are going to go for, unfortunately, the sewage outlet for our sewage. Now if I put this in here, now I absolutely hate how the polluted water looks in this game. I cannot stand it. So we're going to put our water sewage pipe here and we're going to cheese it a little bit. We're going to create a big dip for it, something along those lines. We may neaten this up. This is temporary, so this is going to look awful. It's going to be a scar in our landscape, but it's absolutely temporary. It's not going to stay like this. As soon as we have enough money to afford the wastewater treatment plant, that is absolutely what we're going to get, so we don't have dodgy polluted water going out into our lovely rivers and oceans. Now one other thing to note is I do actually have the no pollution mod on, so there is no air pollution or ground pollution from main industry. However, that doesn't stop the water from actually looking like it's polluted and getting that kind of brown sewage effect, which I can't stand. So this is our solution. And the great thing about this is that if the pit starts to fill up, we can just smooth it over, the poop water will disappear, and then recreate the pit and it's gone, and we've got a fresh pit to work from. So we never really have to expand that, maybe add a few more poop pipes if we need to, but we're just going to ignore that it's there because I know it's not realistic, but we need a cheap way to start. I don't want the polluted water in our rivers, so this is the solution. Now in terms of power as well, it is quite a bit more cost efficient to go for the wind turbine, so I think that's what we're going to do. And the only place really with strong enough wind is over here on this hill. I kind of don't mind this because I think it looks like a bit of a feature in the landscape. So we're going to add 2 of those in to start off with, and we'll add to this as we see fit. I want to delete that. So we're going to hit page down on our keyboard to put the power line under the ground. We're going to connect those 2 up, and then we're going to run it all the way over into the back of our industrial road over here so that that electricity is hooked into the system. And then we should be pretty good to press play and get started on this city. Now again with this, I quite like this as a kind of frontage road, so we're going to leave this as open green space here, and I think I will develop maybe some more commercial, possibly even put the cemetery actually out on this side, a little bit out of the town centre. I think is always a nice space for that. But definitely leaving this as a bit of green belt in between this suburb and the main collector road here. But the other thing I do want to do is sort of plan for future infrastructure, and that is I would like to have a train station in here. So if we place in the train tracks, it is 750 upkeep per kilometre per month. If we place in the pedestrian road, it is 250 per kilometre per month. So a pedestrian road is much cheaper upkeep than a rail track. Now obviously the pedestrian road isn't going to turn into rail. I do, to note, have the historical start mod on, which is why the trains and some of the transit is unlocked from the beginning. However, I'm actually not going to use it. So it doesn't matter. We can't afford trains on the Economy 2.0 patch, so we're going to leave that. I will, however, because we do now have access to tax and things like that right from the offset, I'm going to increase the tax up to 12% so that we keep the demand coming in for the moment, but kind of maximise what we're taking. And then I'm also going to decrease the upkeep, particularly on water and sewage, or the budget, down to 50%. Electricity isn't that costly, so I'm kind of going to leave that, and we don't have that much excess with only 2 wind turbines. So that's going to stay like it is. I do also, I've just realised, need to connect in this road, so don't look at that. Temporary. As soon as we unlock highways, we'll be sorting that all out. But I do absolutely want to plan for our railway station that's going to go in there. So what I quite like, as per a lot of North American towns, is to have a bit of a rail line. Okay, so maybe the station isn't wholly realistic, but they do have rail lines that flow through the town. So that's really what I want to have here. It's not going to go right through the centre, but I am thinking it will go pretty much up alongside this road, kind of parallel to it. So we'll snap into the grid here. We're just going to bring this straight across like that. And then this is going to bend around this corner. So we'll add in a little bit of a bend here and go diagonally this way. I'm trying to think, where's the station? The station's going to go in there, so it needs to bend a little bit more than that. So bend it round actually almost in a perfect kind of circle there. Bring this straight-ish down. It's not totally parallel to our road, so we can fix this up a little bit when we come to actually put the trains in. And then this is going to flow into the station right round about here. And now because we've got the historical start on, we can kind of check the size of the station. And that is sort of going to go in. What I would like to do is actually make it bend a bit further, so we're sort of maximising the space that we're going to need for it. So we'll bring that straight, and then we'll bring this down something like that. And then we'll check again. Yeah, so that sort of meets up with where the first tracks are here. So I think that'll be okay, and whether we use this station or build our own custom one, that's still to be determined. This road, of course, is not going to be there. So that kind of lays out at least where the train track is going to be around this side of town. So then we can start to kind of work our grid around that. Tiny bit of extra road placement, we have now hit a tiny village, which is wonderful. So for starters, let's go right ahead into our development points. We're going to get advanced road services, going to unlock that, and then I'm going to go and fix this mess. So with the extended roads upgrade mod, we can now select key here, and we can upgrade these all to keys all the way around our little industrial peninsulas. Maybe this used to be kind of industrial rail or sea depots, something along those lines, which is now being converted. And then we can get our terrain tools. We'll just make it a relatively small brush size, and we're just going to tidy this up all the way around. Not like that, because that was awful. We don't want to make holes in our industrial buildings. So just kind of up to sort of the middle of the road will suffice for this. We might need to actually just make it quite a bit smaller to get into some of these little corners and neaten them out. And we're going to do a similar thing along our waterfront. So I'm going to push all of this terrain right up against this road, leaving this kind of corner there. We can smooth things off and make it a little bit nicer. I think it'd be nice to have a little kind of corner of park on this space. and then we'll get it back to actual shoreline, get over this side. We do need to tidy up the under the water a little bit here. And then again, we'll go back to road upgrades, and we're going to upgrade all of this to a key, just like that. So that'll be our kind of nice, low to the ground, keyed waterfront. We may potentially put a tiny bit of beach in here, but it wouldn't be a kind of nice, happy beach, because the next thing I do want to do, and we are also making money now, which is fabulous news. We've got demand for absolutely everything, so we will come on to that. But I do want to add in a landfill, and we are going to put it right here. Because we don't have pollution on, I'm not too worried about these houses over this side, so I think this will be okay. We just set it back off the road. In fact, actually, the pollution isn't even meeting those houses, so we're all right from that anyway. But if we just set it back a little bit up here, then we can create really quite a large landfill area. And I pretty much want it to come up to this road, I think. So that it's almost a feature that you can see. You can kind of see those piles from the actual waterfront, which I think will be pretty neat. Because yeah, once this is all kind of piled up, I think it's going to add to the industrial effect of this area and look pretty cool from that perspective. I may even bring it right up against the road, or even one block closer potentially. We'll see how we go. But I think that's going to be okay. Of course, now we do want to come back into our services, go to garbage management and reduce that to 50% because we've got way more capacity than we actually have in our town right now. And we do also need to add a service access road for them. So let's come across the front like that, and then we will, yeah, I think we will just connect it into the main road. And then they've got easy access out onto the collector from this side. Now, interestingly, adding new junctions around this traffic mod is deleting our lane guidelines, so yeah, we need to watch out for that. Let's remove all of them and start again. We probably need to put in all of our roads before we start messing around with the traffic mod, but that is what it is. And also, by way of detailing, let's just come in here and we're going to remove all of these crossings from here. We're also going to remove the traffic lights. We don't need that. We could use move it just to open this up a little bit because that's pretty ridiculous right now, but again, I'm going to remove the crossings and remove the traffic lights from there. And we'll just tidy up some of this. So we're definitely keeping our traffic lights on our main intersection here. That's definitely needed to keep that traffic flowing, so that will be absolutely fine. Yeah, the traffic mod is definitely destroying some stuff. Okay, so we are now getting warnings for hearses and ambulances, and yeah, we need medical care in here. We're kind of on the cusp of actually being able to make some money. We've got pretty decent demand. I've just zoned in the rest of this low density residential over here. I think it's about time we got in some row housing. So if we go in to find it, row housing, anything with a lot depth of 5 or 6 is going to have a back fence. So I think that's kind of what I want to put in here. So we're going to go for level 1 with a depth of 5 and we'll see what we get. So I am again going to mix up the North American with the European style of houses. Let's flip it up to level 2 as well and see if we get anything particularly different. We don't. That's fine. So we could even go to level 3 and just mix it up. We are still at reasonably low levels with level 3, so I think that will be okay. And we've got a nice little row of row houses in here, and all of these have back fences as well. So what we can do here is start to create some kind of more interest into our town and add in perhaps a little back alley. And because they're on the main street, I kind of feel like it would be appropriate to add some parking for them. So I have got these parking lots by a dome, which are incredibly useful. And so we're just going to place in a few of these alongside the side of the street, I think up to about there, just to signify some parking spots for these houses. Now we do need to just move these up a little bit. I kind of haven't found a way to put them in perfectly using a line tool. There's always a little tiny gap which bothers me. So for me, this is the easiest way, but these are functional car parking spaces that you can just add instead of adding the invisible road, invisible network with the car parking spaces on both sides. We can just have this on one side, which I really like. And then we can come in, of course, and add a little bit of surface texture around it to signify that car parking area, just like that. And we can build, of course, around that, but at least that gives some parking to these houses, because I definitely think we want to take it off this street as well. I'll probably come back to that so we can decide what exactly it is that we want to do. But we definitely want to allow some parking around here, and of course we can adjust the parking fees with this as well. So if we wanted to make loads of money, we could charge them $50 to park at their house. Let's just whack up a few of these and we'll see how that goes. I don't think it's really 3 parking spaces at $50 is probably not going to help our budget particularly, but there it is. So for this town centre, what I do want is actually quite a bit of mixed use up here, which we don't unlock just yet. So in fact, it's not till level 5, so I'm going to cheese this a little bit with plop the growables, and we're going to find some nice mixed use to put on this corner right here. So with mixed use, when you're looking for them and find it, you've got left, you've got ones which haven't marked anything, and also you've got ones which say right. Left is obviously for left corners, which is super useful when you're coming in to design these type of things. And then right, of course, you want to put those on your right-hand corner over here. Now with these assets, they can get very, very big. Like, we don't want anything like that around our town centre. That's way, way, way too big. So we kind of want to keep this pretty low key. I'm thinking, you know, around about that height, maybe a tiny bit higher than that is absolutely fine. I have limited this to level 1 as well, so we're not going too high in the levels, so rent should be affordable at this point in our city journey. And then we just want to find, yeah, a few assets that are going to fit nicely in here. So these actually all go together really perfectly in a nice little row. Oh, very uniform, very pleased with that. We can then vary it up perhaps with a little bit more height in here, I think, and these kind of go again with this corner asset here. And then we can just use move it just to tidy these up a little bit to make sure that they are perfectly aligned on that corner. And then we get this nice corner of commercial, we've got a bit of residential above it. And we'll start getting some businesses in here. So we've got a barber shop, and we've also got a clothes shop over here. We've got a shop late in the middle. Don't know what the rest of them are going to be. But there's a sort of start to our little high street here. And what I would like to do with these as well is also mix in a little bit of row housing with this. So again, we'll come back to these assets. I kind of don't want these to be too big. We see there's like almost like a car park entrance out the back there. So I'm thinking maybe, yeah, 3 deep for a couple of little row houses mixed in like that. Almost like they didn't want to sell them to the big companies who came in to create the mixed use buildings. So sometimes it does just require a little bit of trial and error to get the assets that you want in here. I mean, that's not too bad. I don't mind that. I'm kind of feeling like the row houses are a little bit jarring here. So something like that I feel suits pretty well. And then we can get in some kind of sidewalk up here. I'm actually thinking maybe we add in just a small little alleyway. We're going to bring this round the back like this. And then we can just use those car parks by dome to add in just very small little car parking lots out the back here. And look, people are using it already, marvellous. And then we can come around and add in some few little props and things like that later on to decorate that up. But I think that adds a nice element of realism to our little high street here. And then behind it, what we can do is start to add in a bit more. We've still got medium density demand, so a bit more medium density. I want something that's kind of not too big like that. That's a little bit blocky for this small town. But we want something that's big enough and kind of signifies that condo block as we want to show it. I think perhaps these ones, we could do a nice little row of 3 of these. And then using Better Bulldozer, which is my new favourite mod, I have to say, instead of bob it off, it's now let's bulldoze it off. We can just remove some of the hedges within here, and then we'll come back and do a bit of surface sorting out so that that feels a lot more consistent. So probably want to remove those surfaces, get the cobblestone going all over the front. And then it will feel like a little bit of a development, I think, on that corner. That's what I'm trying to make here. And perhaps on this corner we have a slightly larger block like that, just to vary it up a little bit more. And then again, we can come in the back here with potentially another alleyway. Actually, we could even join it up to that one, so it's sort of an internal alleyway route. Add some car parks in here, and maybe a little bit more row housing along this side as well. We haven't unlocked parks yet, which is the other thing we do want to bring in. So we'll come back to that. Yeah, something like that feels pretty good. So we're getting a little bit more of a packed in vibe around our town centre over here. Now, how much money? We are making a bit of money now, so let's go ahead and add in our medical clinic, which I think is going to sit pretty nicely here. Sort of opposite this low density residential a little bit, but also close to the start of town. And then we've got enough room around this to expand out as we need to as well. So I think that'll be a good place for it. Again, I am going to come into budget here, go to services, we'll go to health and death care, and we're going to lower that to 50%. It's not going to be very efficient for our city right now, but until we're sort of comfortably making money, I think that's the way forward. So yeah, that's the kind of design that we want around our small town centre here. It's not going to be particularly big, so we're talking about the height really being kind of limited. We'll have the station here, obviously, to these blocks around here, and then lots of low density spreading out from around that. Down at the waterfront, what I would like is a fair amount of low density commercial. We don't have any demand for it at the moment, so we'll wait a little while. But I think we're going to fill this out with low density, because then what we'll get is this nice kind of low waterfront height going actually back to the main street, and the main street will feel a bit more important actually than the waterfront. Feel a little bit busier, so you'll have a nicer quiet waterfront walk along the front here, even though the industry's right there and of course the garbage piles. But that's what I like. This is what you find in cities in reality, is, you know, very dynamic areas where industry really is quite close to where people are living. And that's really the reason why I've got that no pollution mod. Now I really do need to get to highways, so I think what I'm going to do is just carry on zoning out a little bit more low density around here, a few more little row houses, and then hopefully we'll get to milestone 2. Okay, so we have reached level 2, and so with that we are going to unlock highways, just so that we can redo this road here. So let's delete all of these horrendous connections. We'll need to click pause for this so we don't destroy the traffic coming in and out of our city. Oh gosh, that was so bad, but we'll remove that. And then let's go into highways here. We're going to turn on the topography, because like I mentioned, what I do want to do is kind of scooch around this, cut through this hill, through this plateau, and then join up round here. So it's almost like a little bit of a ring road to the town, although we are going to develop on the other side of it, particularly in this plateau. Also up onto the top of these hillsides as well, so we'll have a few little small kind of, some of the larger plots of housing as well. So obviously we've done 3 deep housing down here, which tends to give you kind of smaller houses. If we go up to 4, 5, 6 even, we're going to start getting some larger housing that we can put up on the hillside, and maybe even some higher levels as well. So that's the plan there. But with the highway, let's just do a tiny bit of terraforming first so that we can get this in. That is all now nicely connected up, and I think rather than doing actually the retaining walls here, I think we are going to leave this as open cliff face, because I quite enjoy it. So I think we'll leave that like that, and we could potentially bridge over and have a road snaking up to the top up here, because it's a bit more of a gentle slope up this way. So that's definitely something that we could look at as well. Now in terms of the intersections, we're not going to be going for anything super fancy here. I think what I'm actually going to do is a bit of a kind of just jug handle into this one. So we'll bring it out straight for a bit and then just bend that straight in to meet the highway here. We definitely don't want any traffic lights on this. This needs to kind of almost be a free-flowing junction. Actually, we might need traffic lights on it. I say that. We might need traffic lights on the highway, but we shall see about that. But then here, what we do want to do is kind of do some little upgrades here. So I'm going to change this into a 2-lane highway. We could probably have it coming out like that. Be a nice big jug handle at least. And then let's upgrade this to a 2-lane road. If we just pop off our snap to zoning cell length, then we can actually snap it nicely in the middle of our 4-lane road there, which is super handy. Then we're going to grab our highway slip roads. So we're going to go to curve tool. We'll try and find a nice bend out of our main road and into our highway slip road like that. So it kind of flows nicely out round there. We're going to do exactly the same thing this side. Yeah, so something like that. And then that goes in reasonably smoothly there. And then from this side, just to help improve the traffic flow a little bit, so these guys can essentially go straight on. With the jug handle, what we're going to do is we're going to bring this out a little bit. We have got a bit of slopey land here actually, so let's just sort that out just before we put this in and smooth out this little section here, and then we can just tidy it up. We're going to have this lane that is going to curve outwards like this, and then essentially come back on itself. We want to try and get these curves nice and smooth to meet up with the intersection right about here. So I mean, that's not too bad. It's quite a large jug handle. but it just helps to divert the traffic that wants to turn traditionally left out into this road, to divert it around this way so it's not blocking up this kind of through road over here. We of course then want to do a little bit of traffic management on this, so we could use traffic mod, or we could just come in and ban our turns on these, something along those lines. Now these, they're going round to the right, so all they want to do is go left, so we can ban the right turn on that. We can also ban left and right turns there to stop them from doing UEs, because we don't want that to happen. We definitely don't want that to happen. And then here, I think actually what we do want to do is upgrade this to an asymmetric road. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to want it the other way. And then we can just adjust this over just a tiny bit to meet it a bit better. Yeah, I've just tidied that up with the traffic mod and a little bit of move it there. I've just realised we've got a tree in the street actually. There we go. Can't escape that even in CS2. So yeah, that gives us a nice little jug handle entrance into the city there. And then I think what we're going to do is do a similar thing over here. Now we do have this big hump in the hill to worry about, which is pretty awkward indeed. And I absolutely do want to make sure that we're leaving enough room for our train station in here. So obviously we've marked out the train tracks there. That is going to need to continue on this way. So realistically, in terms of the station, we could probably squeeze it in there. So it's probably up to about the end of that road that we need to avoid when we're coming around here with a collector. Perhaps what we might actually do is do a little junction over here, and then the collector can kind of swing around this hill a little bit, which might kind of make it a bit more interesting, because we're definitely going to develop out into this bay. I'm thinking maybe beach style area or something to that effect would be kind of fun over there. Let's actually make sure that we've got these contour lines on so that we're not going too all over the place. Like if we draw that straight over there, we've got a little bit of a hump. Actually, it's not too bad. And then what we can do is start to bend it around this hill up here. I think we'll bring that out pretty straight up towards the highway. And I'll come back and tidy that up with another little jug handle a little bit later on. And what we can do as well is we've still got space up here to do a junction that maybe goes off this side and up into the hills. I think that would be quite nice in the middle here. But that definitely leaves us enough space for the station, for expanding our road network and carrying on zoning. So we do have 2 more buildings I do want to add before we kind of finish it off and try and balance the books with a little bit more zoning and tax income. We have now got education, so I would quite like to get in an elementary school pretty sharpish, because I feel like that's definitely going to be needed here. So I feel like this is quite a good spot. It fits pretty nicely there. It's nice and close to kind of the high street, but also the suburban areas as well. It's quite a big building after all, so I think we're going to add that in there. We're then also going to grab the cemetery as well. And I quite like to put the cemeteries essentially out of town, because that's where I tend to find them here in the UK. So I feel like that's quite an appropriate place for it, on the main collector like that. I'd ordinarily set these back off on another road, but actually I feel like with the car park here, it's not really needed on this asset. It actually sits onto a main road pretty nicely like that. And we'll have the train track running up along one side of it as well, which I think will be pretty neat there. So that is going to murder our budget a little bit. So let's just finish off the start of our city with a bit more zoning, a touch of back alley detailing, a little bit of prop detailing, and then we'll come back and have a little look at the start of our brand new town. So here we are, the brand new start to our brand new city, and we are just about making money. And I've even put in police and fire, so that's good news. We got down to quite low money. I actually ended up turning off the cemetery, did a bit more zoning, and it bounced back up. So we're all good now. In terms of taxes, our taxes are on 15% for everything. We haven't got any offices in yet, so that doesn't really matter. Services, we're on 50% for absolutely everything, and we're just about balancing the books at this stage. We have got demand for all types of residential and offices as well, so we'll be expanding on that next time, and also looking at some specialised industry as well to try and boost our production chains and economy. But yeah, let's take a little look around. So in terms of the industrial district, I have expanded this out a little bit. This is just absolutely horrendous. Like I said, as soon as we have the money, we'll be getting rid of that and exchanging it out for the waste processing facility. But yeah, we've just done bits of surface work around here to tidy things up. Obviously tidied up this car park in the middle, put in a few little decals and the nice kind of car driving lane thing that whatever it's called there, skid marks. Not sure it's skid marks, but there we go. We've added in a few little props around here, extended out the surface into this corner with a little bit of fencing, various different things like that. Lots of stains everywhere basically to try and rough it up. Some of the buildings look newer and more modern, and that's okay. That's just kind of symbolising they have a little bit better upkeep. Over here we started adding decals to the roofs of the industrial buildings, which I absolutely love. If you've seen my farm build in CS2, you'll know, yes, this is like my new favourite thing to do, although we won't be doing it on every single building, but in a few select places. Like this little area is a little bit more run down, shall we say. And then we've got this little kind of storage yard here. I quite like this. It's sort of back to back, you know, small businesses can come and take a little warehouse here, that sort of thing. So I quite enjoy that. And then a few other little industrial buildings outside the front of our garbage processing. I have to say, really liking this. Like, I know it's a bit of an odd placement considering we've got houses actually right here, but this does happen in reality, to have garbage processing that close to other kind of formats and buildings and things like that. They've just taken over this space, sorting out the rubbish. That's what I'm going to say, rather than a proper landfill. It's kind of not really a proper landfill in this game, so yeah, I quite like this. And once it's all piled up, I think that's going to look pretty awesome in front of our industrial waterfront here. I did also go round and use Better Bulldozer to remove some of the chimneys, which you can do. So like if you select the remove sub-elements now, you can remove the chimneys. You want to be careful with things like this, that you're not removing whole elements. I don't think they tend to smoke like that, so you should be fine. But yeah, you can just remove off a few, trim it back to how you want it to look. I don't mind a few little smokestacks, I'm absolutely fine with that. I think it adds to the industrial vibe. I just don't want them on absolutely every single building. So in terms of the waterfront, we've just expanded out some of the commercial. We've got quite a few businesses with no companies in them. I'll be honest, you can see the signs up here, your company here, waiting for a business to move in, but that's okay. We've got others where the shops have all moved in. Really, really liking this little waterfront actually. Very low key. Love it with the car parks here as well. I'm thinking maybe next episode we might try and put in a bit of a pier here. I've got a bit of an idea for that, so we'll come back to that. But yeah, loving how this is all working, particularly with the little back alleys going round into car parking. We've done a few little graffiti decals and things like that in these spaces. Particularly here, really like this. Actually added on some of the stains and the leakage on the buildings here too. Very small little car parking area that you could kind of potentially drive to through this little alleyway, although it is blocked off. In terms of the roads, we've got rid of most of the parking on the high street. I don't mind a bit of on-street parking here outside these houses. I think that's okay and pretty realistic, just not on absolutely every street. We obviously left some on some of the back streets. I mean, this is a bit extreme. We'll need to come back and trim some of this off, I think, over time. But yeah, particularly around here, we definitely need more parking in. But it's okay for a start. And then yeah, we have just come in and filled in some of these blank corners with nice little communal areas like this that they can walk through. And in particular, this one's my favourite over here, this little playground park. Just to use some of the Botzal surface, I think that's what it's called. And a couple of little props around with some of the hedges. Very much like that vibe. Oh, one thing with the hedges as well, with the wild bushes in particular, if we use extra detailing tools now to actually sink them into the ground, so you can see here if I try and click on one of these, it's actually really sunk into the ground. And it ends up looking a little bit more like overgrowth, which I'm sorely missing in this game. So I quite like that effect, and really, really simple to do. You can lock the elevations, you can just go round and click them down into the ground. So yeah, liking this with the combination of the riverbed decals from Sully, a few little rocks and boulders around. Makes quite a nice border around our industry there, very pleased with that. And then up here we just done a little bit of fencing, couple of kind of walking paths cutting through and a green belt. I didn't want to do too much here because obviously we've got the rail line that's going to be going in here. So we'll wait and see what happens at the top here. It all looks a bit plain and boring at the moment. But yeah, that's kind of it for the moment. I'm really kind of enjoying this sort of view over the low density in down towards the high street. I think that's pretty cool. Really also enjoying these bigger sort of more open junctions like this with the extra lane here and different angles coming in, not just a straight boring crossroads. Very much enjoying this. Oh, we did put in a little fountain with some surface underneath. Oh, I can see the grass poking through there. We'll fix that. Yeah, a little fountain in the middle here with a couple of benches, which I thought was kind of cute. And again, we've just come round and filled in green space with a bit of fencing. And either park areas or just lots more green space. But there we have it. So that is the start to our new town. Super excited to get on to the next episode. Please do let me know your name suggestions for the city as a whole and also for our first starter town here, our waterfront town. Let me know what you would like these to be called in the comments below and we will name them next time. If you have enjoyed the episode, likes, comments and shares are greatly appreciated, and while you wait for new content, please do check out one of the videos on screen. But that's all from me for now. Bye bye.